to an all-new episode of Pinal's People. My guest today is Chuck Wright, who is the owner of Pinal Design Group and has been an architect for 40 years here in the Pinal County area. He also currently serves as the president of the governing board for the Casa Grande Union High School District and is the founder of Future Voices. Chuck, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Well, thank you so much for making me part of this project. It's nice to be included in part of Casa Grande's history.
Yeah.
I was born and raised in Casa Grande area. I went to school in Eloy. I, of course, went off to college and received my degree in 1974 from ASU. And being that I was born here, I had a desire to come back to our community and serve. I took a little detour when I got back. My family was in cotton farming, and I was raised on the farm, and I had a pull of needing to be a part of that family farm, and so I did that for about 10 years of my life, and then I decided I wanted to get back into what I went to school for and go into my design career. And so I started my business in 1983 and started working for clients and designing projects, having a lot of fun. I mostly, in the early years, I did residential design. Probably in the early 2000s, I started doing more commercial design renovations and new construction builds. Around 2006, I pretty much did all of commercial tenant improvements, building renovations in the Casa Grande, Coolidge, Eloy, Florence areas. I had several projects that I'm really proud of. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so glad you started off talking about your career as an architect, because that's something I really wanted to ask you about is, what initially got you into architecture? What inspired you to kind of get into that field?
Well, I early on when I enlisted into the university, in high school, I had a very creative streak in me, and I like to create things, and not necessarily architecture, but I did a lot of modeling, building models and creating stuff. I like to draw, and that was kind of an attractive point to do that creativity. So when I got into college, I went into industrial design, and I started my major is in industrial design, and after I completed my degree, I went off and started practicing architecture. But around here, it's I just like to add to new buildings and add creativity to the area, and there's a lot of old buildings around here that we've reused over the years. We've revised old buildings and trying to make them into a reuse type of thing. So those are the kind of challenges that we get into. I've had several old buildings. One in Coolidge for Pinal County Credit Union. We took the old Kentucky Fried Chicken building on Arizona Avenue, and we pretty much gutted the whole building and built it into the beautiful building it is today. The same thing happened out in Florence at their facility in Florence. We gutted another building and made it their business their branch. So those are the kinds of needs. There was another building on Arizona Avenue in Coolidge, which was the old roller skating rink on there, just across the street from the credit union, and we renovated it and made it into a Napa auto store. But the old roller rink was where we all skated during the 50s and 60s. Mm-hmm. So it was a challenge.
Yeah. So. Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, so, of course, you mentioned 1983. That's when you started Pinal Design Group. So 2023 marks 40 years for you in business. And, you know, I'd love if you could speak to, you mentioned some of the projects you've done here around Pinal County. What's it like for you getting, you know, you mentioned the roller rink, for example, getting to take some of these buildings that have historical significance and kind of redesign them and repurpose them to continue serving a purpose?
Well, it means a lot. You know, it means that you're not tearing something down to build something completely new, and you're kind of architectural reuse. And it's kind of all up to the client too. You can take in these old buildings, but a lot of times you might want to start anew and have something that looks like it's old or it matches some of the old architecture in the community. One particular project in Florence I did in the mid 90s was the Main Street Family Practice on Arizona Street, I guess, in Main Street, Florence, right across from the Mexican food restaurant there, L&M's, I think it is. But we made it. A lot of the Florence architecture has kind of adobe walls and has some metal roof type of stuff, and that's what we did with the Main Street Family Practice. We made that building to match the existing architecture along the street, and so we're very proud of that project also. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so in addition to, of course, you know, just a incredible career as an architect here in this area, you've also been very you know, involved in the community as well. You serve on the Casa Grande Union High School District Board, and I know that is, you've served twice. Is that correct? Since there was, I know you were elected recently in 2016. Mm-hmm. And could you tell me a little bit about what first motivated you to get on school board?
Well, both my mom and dad graduated from Casa Grande Union High School. All three of my boys attended Union and graduated from Union High School too. When I first got on the board, I was contacted by a former theater director for Union, Manny Labus, and he reached out to me in '96 and, hey Chuck, why don't you run for the school board? We need you to help. At that time, I had my oldest boy, Jeff. He was a junior at the school, and I thought, well, you know, I'm a parent, and I think that's being a parent of a student. I think that's probably one of the biggest motivations for you to want to be a school board member. And so I thought, well, that was good, and so I decided to run, and I ran and I got elected, and it was 4 years to serve there. In 2015, I started reaching back out to the high school, and the superintendent at that time, Dr. Goodsell, he reached out to me and wanted me to come in and offer, you know, be a part of some from parents groups. And then he reached out to me and said he'd like me to run, and so that's what caused me to run in 2016. And so I ran, and I'm serving again now. So I'm going on to my 11th year now serving on the school board. it's deeply challenging being a school board member. It's a lot of issues coming up. It's an unpaid position. The people that do it are heroes, that because you take so much flack. But the results that we've had is deeply gratifying for each of us board members. I think what we do is good work. Sometimes it's not popular, but I think the overall result is we just want to make sure our kids in this town get the best education that taxpayers can give us. Mm-hmm. So that's our end goal.
Mm-hmm. And I actually really appreciate that you brought up kids and giving them the best education possible, because I know you also have another project that you do, which is the Future Voices. And I'd love for any of our viewers that might not know what Future Voices is, I'd love if you could share a little bit about that and what got
Sure.
you interested in starting it.
Well, Future Voices, the Future Voices Leadership Award was a project that developed out of a previous project that I started in 2016, which is called the Voices Project. And the Voices Project was a project where I decided that I was going to select 12 young adults in our Casa Grande area that lived and worked in Casa Grande, that were between the ages of 21 and 45, and that were, I call them under the radar leaders, up and coming leaders who have not hit the big screen yet, so to speak. They're not the ones that are in the paper, spotlights, or not the city councilmen and that type of thing. The under the radar group. And so we selected 12 young adults at that time, and I interviewed them and photographed them. It really was a photography project for me at first, but then it turned into something of a bigger thing. So we selected the 12. And we had a ceremony down at the theater, and we recognized each one of the 12. And so we got that done in March of 2017. And so we got all done, and everybody was happy, and we went on for a year or so, and we thought, well, where do we go with this Voices project? Because the Voices was about young leaders. And so how do we keep this project going? And so we decided that we were going to project it down to our high school students, or to the schools, to identify younger leaders that could be developed as future leaders or for our community. And so in 2018, we developed the Future Voices Scholarship Award, and it started out as a scholarship for graduates of Vista and Union High School. And so we created an application, and we go through and interview them, and then we select a $1,000 scholarship for 2 students. Last year we decided to expand the program and include Mission Heights School, because they have a very fine high school program over there also. So now we offer 3 scholarships. In 2019, we, in addition to identifying the future leaders, we identified junior voices, and so for each year we identify junior voices from the 3 middle schools from the elementary school. So we present them with a certificate of leadership during our ceremonies each year. And so this year's winners are going to be Haley Mace, Haley Calvert Smith, and Victor Whitner from Vista. Haley Mace from Union, Haley Calvert Smith from Mission Heights. We have not selected the junior voices yet.
The other really amazing project that I know that you've worked on is the Eloy Icons project. And I know you mentioned earlier you were born in Casa Grande, but you were raised in Eloy. Could you talk a little bit about that and what got you interested in starting that
Gosh, the Eloy Icons project is a work of love because I like I said, I grew up in Eloy, and I grew up in Eloy during the 60s, and so the icons are of 5 historic buildings in Eloy when I was growing up in the 60s. And so it started in 2010, and we were all members of a Facebook page created by a friend of mine, a fellow architect down in Tucson, and fellow Santa Cruz graduate, Bill Carnell. And so we'd have this Facebook page, and there would be a lot of back and forth and comments and stuff, and people would talk about the Friendly Corners store, which is down in Green Reservoir, and we'd banter back and forth about, well, is it still there? Is it still open? No. And then we'd talk about buildings in Eloy, like the Dust Bowl Theater. And there was a fellow at that time on the page, Dick Myers. He passed away a few years ago, but he was an old Eloy resident that had a lot of history with him, and we used to banter back and forth about, no, the building was on that side of the street or this, and so all that dialogue in 2010 got me to thinking, there's some history to be preserved here, and so I went to work, and I picked out 5 buildings that I wanted to identify, and the first one was the Friendly Corner store down south of Eloy, and the second one was the Dust Bowl Theater. The third one was the Tall Tech Tavern. The fourth one was the A&W Drive-In, and the fifth one was the Valley Auto Parts store in Eloy. And so in 2011, I went to work on the Friendly Corner store, and it took me about a year of research and development for each project, and so I finished all 5 in 2016, and all 5 of them are digital paintings of the actual building, and they all include members. A member of my family and a member of the ownership of the building, and they all have accurate cars and miscellaneous stuff in the picture. And then every picture I had 1 or 2 people helping me as collaboration to get the facts straight. And so they're very factual. But anyway, in 2016 we completed the last one, and we had a display at the Casa Grande Art Museum. We had them all displayed, and had all the people that were alive that are in the picture were all invited to the film, and so they were all put in one place, and it was a wonderful evening to have all that history right there. Mm-hmm. but since then, they are for sale, and I've only limited to 50 signed copies on each one of them. The Friendly Corner picture has sold out, and the rest of them still have a few.
And so Chuck, you've done all of these things, like we said, Eloy Icons, you have Future Voices, you're a member of the school board. And so, there's a question I'd love to ask you, which is a question we've been asking all of our guests that have been on the show this year. And I'd love to get your perspective on it. So 20, 30, 40 years from now, when you've accomplished everything that you want to accomplish with, Casa Grande Union High School District School Board, with Future Voices, with Pinal Design Group, and you're ready to take a step back and pass on some of these projects to the next generation. And if all of the things you've learned and the knowledge you've accumulated over the years, you can only pass on one piece of advice or lesson to the next generation, what would it be?
Well, I think it would be the youth that all the connections I made during my time in the school board to project leadership and enthusiasm down to our students. The thing about the Future Voices is to inspire our young students to use their voice, to speak up. Being a leader is more than just about speaking up, but you do have a voice, and how you use it is what's best. And to be a leader, you got to know how to promote yourself, and that's what Future Voices is about: is using your voice to be a leader. I'd like Future Voices to continue. To project myself down 20 years down the road, I hope I live 20 more years. But all this artwork for Eloy Icons, I love preserving history, and I think that's what's good about the architecture is trying to preserve some of that history. But my time serving my community through my schools is what I'm probably most proud of.
Yeah, absolutely. Chuck Wright, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Okay, thank you.